and welcome to the Daily Space Weather, folks. Looking at the sun here in 304 angstroms. We see sunspot 2757, a beta-class sunspot. It has released a few X-ray flares. We'll talk all about it. We also see an active region rising here in the south. Deadly, crazy weather, and a 6.8 magnitude earthquake strikes Turkey. Let's zoom in on this local yellow dwarf. And there's an active region rising there in the south. We'll show you a close-up of it in a moment. We're only looking at about 10 hours of data here from today, January 25th, 2020. And there's a sunspot, and you can see a little bit of the crackling of those flares. Let's look at the view in 131 angstroms. This takes 5 times more images than the 304 angstroms view. And there you can see a little bit of activity crackling there. It is beta class. It's not looking particularly powerful. And there's that active region rising in the southeast, near where my pointer is. And let's take some custom images here, courtesy helioviewer.org. Now, we've uploaded them to YouTube for your convenience. First, let's look at the magnetogram and the 171 angstroms view, and that's sunspot 2757 there. And there's the fade out to the magnetogram, so you can see the fields associated with that there are 2 fields. And we'll look at the umbre a little bit later. First, let's go to YouTube, as I've uploaded some HelioViewer videos. Here's the rising active region, as we've been making some custom movies here on HelioViewer, so look for that as an upcoming section, as we'll have more content in various different formats. Here's the animation of the magnetogram, and you can see that the behavior of the magnetic fields there associated with that sunspot. And you can see a little bit of magnetic complexity there at the leading edge. Not sure if it's weakening or not. Proton flux is flatlined. So we see a very, very weak solar wind also, folks. And there are those B-class X-ray flares we saw. At least 2 of them there, and they were very, very weak X-ray flares. Let's look at them on the GOES 14 X-ray viewer. And there you can see a little bit of X-ray flaring happening there. Let that play through for you, complete with date stamps. By the way, folks, we'll be making at least 2 more videos today, probably 3 more, including a live stream later this afternoon involving beer. Here's the 10.7 centimeter radial flux, which is still at 71. And the KP index is at 1. I wouldn't be surprised if this dropped down to 0 anytime soon, with a solar wind as weak as we see it. As we see a solar wind speed below 300 kilometers per second. There's the data from ACE. Next, the real-time solar wind. And we see a phi angle of 158 degrees. We see a solar wind density of 3.9 protons per cubic centimeter, having dropped down since we did show prep. And check out the solar wind speed. I think that's the lowest we've ever documented on the channel, 285 kilometers a second. That is a weak solar wind if I've ever heard one. A little bit of density is keeping the magnetosphere somewhat induced current charged as protons flood in. If you're not aware, folks, the solar wind is comprised of about 90% protons, about 7% alpha particles, which are helium nuclei, and the rest is going to be electrons mostly, and then a smattering of every element you see on the periodic table. Here's the geospace ground magnetic perturbations, and nothing too exciting seems to be happening there. We're going to show you the 4 hours of data anyway, as we do every day. As we do see anomalies regularly on the channel, let me put that back to where it was and keep the video as dense as possible. as we increase the density of the minds of our viewer, the brains, literally. Next thing I have to wonder is, where have all the electrons gone? There really aren't very many of them. Either in the relativistic type, which are the greater than 2 mega electron volts, or the greater than or equal to 2 mega electron volts. Very, very low electron flux levels. I believe the lowest we've ever seen on the channel. And next we'll look at the 6 hours of the ionosphere. We'll let that play through. We still see anomalies in the southern hemisphere portion of it here, mainly. And I'm not going to keep harping on the South Pacific anomalies, but they are still there. As well as some possible measuring areas around the prime meridian. Let's just show you the latest image here and move on. This data is courtesy of Government of Australia Bureau of Meteorology. There's the latest image at 10:15 UT. And we're a little bit late today as we slept in since it's Saturday. And by the way, thanks Terry for the coffee. We're drinking the first the first Indonesian that you sent. Fantastic. There's the data from GOES magnetometers. Nothing too exciting happening there. And here's the Gong 2 data. We'll make sure that's the latest. This coming in an hour and 24 minutes ago. And you can see the Earth's magnetic field force line shown here in orange from the Earth to the corona is solidly South Pole oriented, shown here in red. Next we'll look at this earthquake. 6.8 struck Turkey. Here is a video about it. So apparently that's about the amount of shaking that you would get from a 6.8. Now I'm not sure how close in proximity Kafir Yalcin was to this location, but hey, nice job on the video. Maybe go follow him on Twitter. And yeah, 6.8 has struck eastern Turkey. Likely a deadly quake, as we see evidence of buildings having collapsed and so on. There's one building having collapsed. This area is full of buildings that are earthquake resistant and buildings that aren't earthquake resistant. There's the location on USGS of that quake. And let's go to the list. By the way, that quake came in at 17:55 UT yesterday. And here we're just going to scroll up the list, noting anything interesting. So it looks like a little uptick in earthquakes over the past 24, folks. It looks like that 6.8 was already downgraded to a 6.7. Please leave a comment if you're surprised that the quake was downgraded. And there's a location of that. Many aftershocks have come in. Let's keep scrolling up the list, as it's got a lot of aftershocks on it, as it typically does. One of the deepest quakes we ever see is at 619 plus kilometers depth there. This 4.3 magnitude striking around Fiji. Very, very deep quake there. In the deep quake capital of the world, Oceania. Also saw 5.5 in China. And quakes are coming in as we do the report, folks. Here's a 4.2 at Argentina. That one is at 121 kilometers depth. And I would say that I'm still expecting a large quake on the west coast of South America. There's a deep quake in Alaska. It's not very strong magnitude, only 2.9, but 161 kilometers depth. Here's a deep quake at Tonga. It's a 4.4 magnitude at 302 kilometers depth. And lastly, another deep quake at Peru, western South America, is yelling that it's going to have a big quake. Let's talk about the largest active volcano in the world, Mauna Loa. It's over 13,000 feet in height, and again, the largest active volcano on the planet. Guess what, folks? It's been raised to a yellow advisory level. Let's hope Mauna Loa doesn't erupt in epic fashion, as it'll take your snowfall in the northern hemisphere and increase it even more, as volcanoes are a global cooling input. If you're not familiar with where Mauna Loa is located, it's on the main island of Hawaii. In fact, the main island of Hawaii is Mauna Loa, and we've been covering it for weeks, showing you earthquakes thousands of meters above sea level, indicating the filling of Mauna Loa's magma chambers. Here's the windy.com pressure map. We'll let that advance 24 hours or so. And if you're wondering what time it is when we made the video, it's 5:33 a.m. And we'll just let this advance until about noon tomorrow Universal Time. There's where things will be at 1 p.m. Universal Time tomorrow. You've got some anticyclones in the South Pacific, as well as low pressures in the North Pacific, which have now split in two. Possible uptick in earthquake activity around Kamchatka and Alaska. I wouldn't be surprised to see earthquakes around these regions. As I did happen to actually notice that low pressure system acting weird. If you're in Alaska or eastern Russia or even Japan, I would be on higher alert than normal. And let's blast through some more data here. Mount Aso on the list of volcanoes. Height of the plume is unknown. Sakurajima exploded. Not sure the flight level there either. Semaru, still on the list, flight level 14,000. Dakono, exploding, flight level 7,000. And Mauna Loa, since it's in the U.S. especially, let's read the whole warning. During the past week, HVO seismometers recorded 99 small magnitude quakes beneath the upper elevations of the volcano. The strongest was a 3.1 on January 21st, which I'm sure we probably reported. Most earthquakes occurred at shallow depths of less than 5 kilometers beneath the surface. In fact, many of them occurred thousands of meters above the surface. GPS measurements show continued slow summit inflation consistent with magma supply to the volcano's shallow storage system. Gas concentrations remain stable. Fumarole temperatures as measured at both sulfur cone and summit have not changed significantly. So that's some good news, folks, but it's still expanding, and we still are seeing magmatic quakes below its caldera. So let's just hope Mauna Loa does not erupt in epic fashion, as it could cause global disaster. Sabancaya, possibly erupting, unable to detect. Please do not attempt to pole vault Sabancaya. Let's talk coronavirus. It's still spreading. And one UK scientist is predicting that there will be over 250,000 cases within 10 days. Anyway, as of a few hours ago, the death toll has hit 41 as Australia reports some cases of coronavirus. Not a good sign, folks. It has been already shown to be communicable from person to person. Also not a good sign. So stay on your game, folks. Don't overdo it. Keep your immune system charged up. And I don't have anything else to say except we left links to the articles below the video. This one also from Zero Hedge. Here are some factoids. Another 15 deaths were announced. Total confirmed cases is over 1,000. China has restricted travel for over 46 million people across 16 cities. AFP reports the virus has jumped to Europe and 3 confirmed cases now in France. 2 deaths reported outside of Wuhan. Let's get on to more stuff. By the way, there is a section in smAshomash.com/forum about coronaviruses. If anybody would like to update that for us, feel free. And thanks to all of our new website members. Fantastic! I did not expect it to rise in numbers as quickly as it has. Lightningmaps.org is showing us where the lightning is striking. And man, oh man, lightning was striking Spain and France, let's just say. Before we talk about it, we'll look at the U.S. Doppler radar map. And there's the data in the U.S. as we are expected to get some foul weather today in eastern Pennsylvania. I'm located in Lehigh Valley, if you're not aware. We also see some interesting convergence zones over southern Colorado, as well as a hell of an ice storm down there. Central PA getting some heavy rains, and expecting this to turn into a slushy mess where I'm located. There were some deaths in Spain and France after they received 2 months worth of rain in 48 hours. This Watchers article also linked below the video if you want to read all about it. I'll just scroll down, just in case you don't want to click on it. Check out this Twitter video. Check out the flooding. It is epic. Holy jeez-o whiz. Son of a beehive. That is not a good day for driving, but it looks like a good day for whitewater rafting in the city. Here's a U.S. water vapor map. We're going to zoom in on 2 different spots here. First, the one right above my head. And there's that zone, as it's probably started raining. And major low pressure system located out toward Indiana. And next we're going to look at this area over southern Colorado once again. Fantastic convergence zone there. And you see all that dry mass of air shown in red and orange? Have you had your protons today? We're not going to do an atmospheric physics lesson today. Anyway, there's that data. And next we've got the nullschool.net jet streams. Here's the Western world. And I skew that so we can see South America, North America, Western Europe, Northwestern Africa, as well as Alaska, where there's a massive cold air jet pulling air from the Arctic. And the Northern Hemisphere jet stream is hardly a jet stream, folks. Here it is from the North Geographic Pole view, and that thing is all over the place. Let's look at the Eastern world's jet stream and move on, as there's a lot more video production to do today. So stay tuned for more videos coming out, folks. We'll probably have a total of about 6, counting the helioviewer.org videos. And there are the jets in the eastern world. I would note they are moving the exact opposite direction of normal over the southern Indian Ocean. If you see jet streams moving east to west, that's not normal. Next, we're going to look at some transients. Just a couple of them here. I've prepared them for you. It's the Neil Gorell Swift Observatory. We're going to look at the X-ray emissions of a couple objects. Starting out with the galactic core. There is Sagittarius A star. And we always link to the Neil Gorell Swift Observatory, Swift BAT X-ray monitor, that stands for Burst Alert Telescope. And there are the recent transients from Sagittarius A star, as well as the historical ones. Next, we'll look at Crab, which is the most powerful X-ray source in the entire sky. And I would note that over this historical period here, from 2005 to 2019, Crab has been reducing in X-ray emissions. You can see actually in 2018, it actually reached its lowest levels ever. And there's the daily for Crab, and that's the Crab pulsar, the source of illumination for the Crab Nebula. Next, we'll look at Cygnus X3, otherwise known as the star Deneb, or Alpha Cygni, the brightest star in the constellation Cygnus, and indeed the most intrinsically luminous object in the Milky Way that we can see. There is the transients from Cygnus X3, and I would note that it is at a very, very low activity state, You can see here's the zero line where it is now. And we just saw a transient burst from it right on the zero line, just below the zero line. And you can see, historically speaking, it is in one of its ultra-quiescent states. And this is the state that it gets into before it goes into a powered state. So we're keeping an eye on this. And when I say eye on, the pun is intentional. Because if you're not aware of what the jets are made out of, the jets that come out of these objects, they're 90% protons, hydrogen nuclei. That's what we mean when we say plasma, ionized dust. And by the way, dust only has to be ionized 10% to behave as a plasma in space. Because space is not empty, folks. Are you familiar with the smAsho mission? Well, let me read it for you. It's to assist, study, and report on the ongoing formation of a unified theory of physics, to raise the awareness of the general public of the relationship between space weather and Earth effects. All your weather comes from space. It's all cosmic, folks. Also to connect and consult with media organizations to multiply our reach, which is why we have a YouTube channel. Also to demonstrate cutting-edge proof of concept solutions to problems, to publish scientific papers in a multidisciplinary manner, including but not limited to spectroscopy, chemistry, astrophysics, health, wellness, and longevity, cosmology, biology, magnetohydrodynamics, geology, etc., to assist mankind by advancing the study of predictive phenomenon in order to optimize value and reduce I'm talking too fast. Anyway, part of the purpose is to be able to adapt no matter what the adversity is. And I don't care if that's a solar outburst or not. Mankind, and indeed you, can survive any of it. Your ancestors did. So can you. And last but not least, to not be ossified in our beliefs. Because if you're ossified in your beliefs and not trying to disprove your own theories, you ain't doing science, you're doing religion. Anyway, for those of you who are ossified in your beliefs, we will treat you with love, respect, and inclusion to the scientific discussion. If you enjoy the mission, please follow us on YouTube, press subscribe, and so on, as we have hundreds and hundreds of videos about space weather, cosmology, and all kinds of other stuff, even breaking news stories. There are our most recent images of the sun, each with exactly 13 views. Anyway, if you'd like to support our mission, please consider becoming a patron, as we've got a lot of things to do in 2020, including probably in February filing our nonprofit organization paperwork, allowing you to make tax-deductible donations. We'll let you know when that happens, but in the meantime, consider becoming a patron. There's only 2 levels, folks. It's a $1 a month and a $9.99 a month level. So help support the channel. It's the real source of funding for this channel. Check out smAshomash.org and welcome to the Neo Renaissance. Scroll down, click on the link for the newly unveiled smAsho forum, and set up a login. Thanks to everybody who did. We are amazed at how many there are there. So cheers to everybody for that. And let's go to one bonus feature. Actually, it's 2 bonus features. The first one is a look at the intensitygram, looking at the umbra of sunspot 2757. And it is not zooming for me. There we go. And while we do see at least, I'd say about 5 umbrae there, this thing could be reducing in power, actually. It looked like it was weakening on the leading portion. I believe it is still classified as a beta class, meaning that there are 2 different polarity umbrae there, but they're very close together. And it's not looking very strong. It's cycle 24. I'm over it. What about you? And here's a 48-hour video, courtesy of the SDO. And this is 171 angstroms. You can see the entire life cycle of sunspot 2757 there. It looks like it's weakening to me. What say you? I'll let that play through a second time and then show you the southern hemisphere, which again has an active region rising. And there we scrolled up to show you the time and date stamps as well. Active region rising down here, something else to keep an eye on throughout the day. Thanks for tuning in, folks. Remember, stare at the sun, don't drink. If you do, don't drive, and may that solar wind be at your back and that atherosclerosis absent from your veins.